All right, I hooked up on Mike. How's it
Oh, there it
sound?
goes.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
that's
Justin.
crispy.
Dark Night,
Dark Night and
Day. Where do I start? A tiny little indie film. Chris Nolan, I believe.
Yeah, he hadn't done anything up to this point, I don't think.
Yeah. First time rewatching this movie in how long, Justin? You watched it last night?
I did. I watched it last night. It was the first time in like 5 years, I think.
yeah.
I didn't realize that it
Same.
came out in 2008. Like, that's wild to
Time
me.
is
I remember
moving.
I was like, when did I watch it first in high school? But
I
it
couldn't
like
watch it. My parents didn't want to go see it, and I was 13, so I didn't get to see it in the theaters.
Hey, the first time I watched it, I didn't realize until I think I was in college that this is a sequel to Batman Begins because they changed the actress for Rachel. I hate it when they do that. I have a lot of trouble with that, especially when you're introducing Harvey as a new character. Why don't we just make this a new female who they were both interested in instead of making it a different actress in the second production? That makes it horrifying. See, like as chronologically, especially when you're taking it so seriously, Mr. Nolan.
That's in my notes. I wrote. I was like, why did they change Rachel?
It's confusing. And don't get me wrong, I love Maggie Gyllenhaal, but she could be a different character. She doesn't need to be the same person who was portrayed before. By a different actress. Yeah, that's very unusual. And so again,
wait, did you see Batman Begins though before this, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did you think this was like this is an anthology series?
Yeah, well,
like...
I just never had made the huge connection because they are sort of separated. Like Batman Begins is really like Batman, he goes to Christopher Nolan's house in Tibet, and then he teaches him like secret kung fu and the Oki Nomura touch, which is like a weird Batman move. In that one, they come back and the idea of Ra's al Ghul, which is who Liam Neeson is playing, he wants to destroy Gotham. And so he attaches all these like pipes to the trains and he's going to release gas all over the city, something like that.
Biggest tie-in is Scarecrow for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you get. Like, if you don't know who that is, you're like, no idea who Cillian Murphy is. Why is he here? But,
and the funny thing too with Cillian Murphy at the beginning is just his oh, that's not him. Oh, that's more like it. And then that's literally all he's in the whole movie, which is
it's kind of weird.
Such a bummer because he's a great actor.
It is. It is a bummer. I also have a note on that editing.
Oops,
the editing of that scene as we go in here. I'm not editing that out, Justice. Hopefully nothing was all over. Hopefully nothing was on the white sweatshirt.
I know, that's the first thing I looked at.
I found myself remembering way more of the movie than like previously when I was going to go watch it, where it was like, oh yeah, I know this like almost word for word, this section. Oh yeah, I remember this section. Like it was all scrambled in my head where stuff was because it's such a long movie. But once watching it, I was like, oh yeah. And it was just nice to like sit down and just be like, yeah. Because that's the problem with this movie. I feel like every time I'm like, should I watch it? It's really long. Do I want to sit through all of that? Do I have the focus to like, you kind of really just have to like really want to watch it or have a purpose to watch it like this. It's just such a fun world to dive into. It's such a different world than Batman Begins, like aesthetically. I think like that movie's all like sepia toned almost for him, right? And this is all teal. And like that one is a lot of his mansion and this one's his penthouse. Like it's just kind of different Bruce Wayne's. Obviously he's supposed to be maturing and developing. I thought obviously this villain is much more interesting than the Batman Begins stuff, but mostly I don't know, they're two different kind of villains, and this one I think also just has like the hindsight of like, wow, that was like the pinnacle of Batman villains. Like that is like what we reached. Nothing came close. And so rewatching it, just like falling in love all again with that stuff. And obviously like looking for sound is like, this movie is chock full of all of that stuff too. So it was a really fun rewatch where before I was kind of like, this is going to be a trudge. This movie's so long. It's so heavy. But really, really enjoyed it.
It's a nice 2.5 hours.
It's almost two movies.
But it's also interesting how there is no real tie back to Batman Begins.
And that's why,
hardly any.
You can't tell it's a sequel unless you're like really into the Christian Bale universe.
Yeah, but the third one definitely jumps back because I think like when The Dark Knight Rises is like, oh yeah, shit, we had that first movie. All right, let's go back to that because there's the whole sequence like where he's breaking his back, but that's for another podcast where we do The Dark Knight Rises.
My boy.
Did you think the same as Isaac though when you were rewatching it, Justin? Like, what immediately when you finished that movie watch last night, what like first thought that went into your head was?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I remember everything. Like there was, I watched it 5 years ago, but like all the scenes are making sense. Like I remember subconsciously all the lines the Joker said, because I mean, the Joker at the time just kind of birthed the millions of millennial edgelords. So it's like
what I was saying.
through the memes,
take,
like
actually.
I got all these scars. What is the I swear only makes you stranger. It's like that kind of shit. It's like I know the kids that like wanted to be like him. I get why there was that shit with the whole new Joaquin Phoenix Joker, because the Joker is, I mean, he's just a representation of just the underdog, and I see the the draw to it, but Heath Ledger just, I don't remember everything else being so corny, but Heath Ledger was just, he kind of grounded it a bit, and just in his performance, it makes it so much better. And I can't think of another actor that could have done that role.
Scene stealer in a movie of, I think, really good casting, like across the board, mostly. Maybe
because
like
I was gonna bring up
too.
Gary Oldman as well. Like this, I think there's the tiptoes joke where like the role of a lifetime. I think this actually is like the role that Gary Oldman was meant for. Actually,
tiptoes. I remember.
What's the tiptoes reference? Wait, what?
Goodness gracious!
In the role of a lifetime, Gary Oldman, Tiptoes.
We'll do that movie sometime in the future, kids.
Well, that's one. Isaac, totally agree with you. 2.5 hours is a long ass time. You gotta set a time slot aside in your day to be going over this thing. But it is a pleasure of a watch, man. Like, it is a treat. I don't know. I challenge you all to find a long scene or even a couple short ones where you'd be like, not necessary. I don't find that interesting, that dragged. It just goes like,
especially the boat scene.
Yeah,
where they're all, and like when the hostage situation, it's like, I remember watching it the first time and just my eyes were locked. My ass was on the edge of the seat, and I was there for what I felt like was a good half of the movie.
Yeah.
And then rewatching it last night, I was like, yeah, it has the same feeling. Like I know that how it ends up, but like the entire time you're still just like, fuck, I don't care how long this goes. I want
not
all
this
of it.
manicness. I don't think like he comes right to the edge of it, like with the chaos, because he does give you very slight moments to breathe, but there are no get up and go to the bathroom or go make some popcorn moments. Like there's none of that shit. Like every time I would think like, okay, I need to, oh god, wait, what's happening? What is the Joker doing now? Like he lulls you throughout the movie into this false sense of security.
But like even with the villain, I don't know. I just don't think that anybody is as cruel as the Joker was in that, because you're kind of watching it and you're just like people are gonna die tonight, and you're like, are they actually gonna? And then like 6 deaths later, like gruesome deaths, you're like, oh shit, this is gonna be kind of wild.
And it's such a contrast to a very planned out villain of Batman Begins, where like you can guess where the movie's gonna go, what the big fight's gonna be, and this
he
one
has a motive.
5 to 6 random acts of terrorism through the whole movie. And like if you like, I don't even remember watching the first time, but you could not guess what's gonna happen or what the fights are gonna be or where you're going. Like it really lends itself to like the later thing of like, I don't have a plan. Kind of thing where you're like, yeah, this is all so random, little acts of plans through the whole movie that really makes it like suspenseful the whole time. You have no idea who's gonna die, what's going on until like 10 minutes before. Then you're like, oh, that's like this next sequence is like pretty short, but there's a bunch of them through the whole thing.
And I think that's also why like that's the difference between the Marvel comic universe and the DC universe, where like DC is just like civilians die in the DC world. Marvel, no, it's just superhero against superhero. So like they have these epic fight scenes where it's just like they're getting the shit beaten out of them, but no one dies, no one really has, there's like no real stakes. Then you watch like a Batman and it's just like, fuck, the Joker just killed that guy. He was just walking around.
Final.
And it's dark, and that's why it doesn't really feel so much like a superhero movie. Like the new Batman that came out, it felt like like a Zodiac, because that
way
world
more the
exists.
detective.
Yeah, like Batman doesn't have superpowers. He's a rich dude with technology. It's like, okay, it's plausible. It's not like, Doctor Strange who's traveling through multiverses. You're like, I can't really see myself in that world, but like you're in Gotham, and you can kind of feel that like this shit could happen. Because even the Joker, he doesn't have superpowers. He
No.
just has a bunch of like gadgets and ways to kill people with his mind.
No, and I was thinking about this a little bit. It's such a different take on what we had seen with the Joker, even with like Jack Nicholson, who like
Yeah.
I was reading up, like Heath Ledger had a lot of hesitation taking that role because of how iconic like Jack was for that. And I remember when it was announced, I don't know if you all were like reading and following this, when it was announced Heath Ledger was going to play it, I think there was like so much back, like wait, we're giving it to this guy? Like really? The rom-com?
Yeah.
What was the
10
jousting
Things I
movie
Hate
that
About
he was
You.
in?
Oh, A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's Tale. Like we're giving it to this guy? Totally knocked it out of the park because he played a villain. Like I think what we had seen in past like comic book movies, if you will, whether it's the Tim Burton ones, the Marvel movies, they're all really intelligent but very predictable villains, traditional villains playing a game of checkers, whereas Heath Ledger's Joker is a psychotic maniac with no rhyme or reason playing a game of chess. And
Yeah.
that's the scary part. You're like, this doesn't compute. Right now, this guy is off his rocker right now, and yet he's making 3 chess moves ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, that's why it felt like a David Fincher movie, because of just how everything, like even with Seven, like the criminal was ahead of everybody, and it was unpredictable and it was spooky because you didn't really, I mean, this guy's unhinged. You don't know what he's going to do next. And I think that's why he makes him like a successful comic book villain. Because I don't know, I just don't think of, I can't think of any other superhero movie where, I mean, that's the thing. I don't really even rank this as a superhero movie. It's a bit of it's a drama action film.
My second thought as I was finishing watching and just rolling credits was this is not a comic book movie. Like
No.
in any, I think any sort of definition. Like, yeah, it's leveraging a comic book character, but just I think it's like equal parts what you were saying, like a Fincher Zodiac. And the other note I had, I was like, dude was clearly watching Michael Mann's Heat.
Yeah.
Like right after that. Like even what you were saying before with the cinematography tones, Isaac, like very reminiscent of how Heat was shot and everything like that, and also just the pacing of the heists and everything. And I think that's why it's such a pleasure to watch, because if you blend Zodiac with Heat, that's a good recipe right there.
The way I describe it, like in my head, or like the differences, is that before this, it was you immersed in a comic book. Like that's what like Nicholson's Joker was. You were jumping into the world of a comic book, and it's the flip of it's real life with comic book heroes in it. Like it is real life. It is like a bank heist. People get shot. Like there is no magic of the comic book universe that like is out of the norm, and people are like wacky and crazy, and things are like Tim Burton-ized, which was great for him. That is like you jumping into a comic book is Tim Burton's like field, but Nolan's is taking a character and bringing it into real life and making it real. And that was like the cool part. We were talking about Iron Man, same year, tried to do the same thing, was like a great like, this is a superhero but injected into real life. How would it work? What would it look like? You have to have a billionaire to have all this tech, kind of same thing. And then yeah, we've drifted further and further. You look at an MCU movie, we're kind of going back to like, it's less cartoony, but it's still, you're now going into a comic book. Yeah, they're jumping around multiverses. The suspension of belief is gone. You're just like, yeah, this is a magic based movie that we're in now versus real life kind of thing.
There's a funny contrast there too, though, where like I think it's more consistent in the Tim Burton movies, where there's a lot of funny stuff when I rewatch this one, where the movie's so hyper serious that Christopher Nolan uses the cops as comedic relief for the entirety of the film. That's pretty much the relief moment everywhere, is anytime Batman is interacting with the police. And one of the funniest things for me is the first scene where we see Batman in the bank vault, because the bank vault is like deep in a bank hallway. And it's funny thinking about Batman just running down fluorescent lit hallways to get to this doorway in time, and then the instant that they turn around, he has to run back. And since we're being hyper realistic, Mr. Nolan, let's talk about that. Like, wow, yeah, that is hilarious. There's a lot of those kind of little moments throughout the film where we're so hyper real that I think Batman is really funny in a lot of these moments. Specifically, also the way Christian Bale will like grunt or like just slightly maneuver the bat suit when he's like being injured. And this will be towards the end of the film. We'll talk about this in a moment. But yeah.
Well, the other thing, you're kind of alluding to it a little bit. When you all were watching the story, does it hold up like as you go through, or was there anything you were just looking back at and going, yeah, I don't know about that?
I think the story holds up for me. Yeah, very nicely overall.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a nice contrast. We get these other characters where the Joker basically, I mean, he has to defeat these two kings effectively. One is all of the mob bosses, the other being Batman. Well, even a third being the police, whatever you want to talk about. But I think that part of it is superb. And for me, it's sort of, I mean, every scene with the Joker, sort of like Isaac was saying before, is what makes the film. It really sells it. Like you're caught sort of almost rooting for the Joker, almost here and there, because he is this funny character who just likes randomness and just likes insanity.
And I think and in the cast, I was watching it last night. I think the corniest parts that I found is every scene with Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, because I'm like, this guy, he kind of got.
Did you like it or no?
I don't know.
You didn't like Aaron?
It was almost like he got the brief that was like, all right, this is going to be a comic book. So he was like, all right, I'm going to make it a little outlandish. Because I mean, even the first court scene is meant to feel like, all right, this is his kind of intro. He's in this. They pull a gun on him. He's like, no,
Buy
American made. Yeah, buy American. And it's like, it's a little corny, but he kind of carries that around with him the entire movie. So if we're going to do like on a scale of, best performer, worst performer,
you're saying Aaron had one of the worst performances in the
I
movie?
think so. I think, in relative scope with everybody, because I mean, it's just a cast of hard hitters. I think that but they're all teetering on like a 10 and 9. So they're close, but it's not Razzie bad.
All right. I'm really curious. Favorite scenes as you go through this, boys. Matt, what do you have?
There's a couple that I just think are really funny. So probably just my favorite laugh in the overall movie, the easy one, is when Heath Ledger's walking away from the hospital and the bomb doesn't quite go off. And then his reaction is just great. I just love that shot every time I see it. Another one that I really like more for the cinematography, though, is at the end when we're in the building that's being built and it's night. And we've got this great Christopher Nolan uses these shots where we're always at a wide angle typically, and then everything's presented before you when you enter the space, and then it's just usually on a dolly and just moves slightly forward, and there's just a great shot of the Joker with 3 Rottweilers, and I just love that shot with the night sky in the background. And they just look so badass. But so those are probably the two easy ones, for me, that I just love every time I see it.
But the hospital explosion scene is also a great sound design one as well, where they just have all the rubble falling. You can hear it. How did they design that scene? Is that a miniature model that they're putting in, or did they actually have a hospital in the background?
I thought it was practical. I don't.
Yeah,
know
I
the
believe it
literature,
was a practical hospital, if I recall
and
correctly,
that's
that they
his
were
reaction.
that they
Is a
were destroying.
mistimed explosion.
Yeah,
That's why he
Yeah.
like clicks the thing a bunch.
it's
Like that was
it's
not a.
genuine.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
that's the
Yeah.
funny thing about it. It's like improv because it didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is,
Nolan must have been like, "Yep, that's the one we're keeping. We're not
can't
touching
do it
this."
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, I mean, it's another reason why I love Christopher Nolan films, because it's, I mean, there's so much practical effects
There's a
going
ton
on.
of practical.
Yeah, like the car was built, the bike was built, all the explosions are real, all the
A
pyrotechnics.
lot
So
of the stuff was still CGI.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone like heralds this movie of like
Well-
practical, and then it's like, yeah, it's also just like the most seamless blend.
Yeah.
Nolan knows how to like, I need to build this practically. Great reference for all the CGI artists, and then you like seamlessly intercut both, and you can never.
Well, there's a big difference
right?
too, specifically with all the Harvey Dent scenes. There's like it's just backlighting. Like rim
Mhm.
lighting is the easiest thing in the world to light for CG. Like literally the easiest. So they're just being very smart about the way they're implementing that.
Was there a good like scene that comes to mind where they employed that? Or maybe like I don't even know, Isaac, what you were saying
When
before.
the Batmobile is like about to explode and stuff, and he's there, like there's a practical exterior shot and then a practical interior, CGI exterior, now that you've already had like real rubble on it. So this is now a CGI asset, another CGI asset. CGI as he exports, and then him on it from the back is a practical. So it's like intercutting where you need to, but
Oh,
like
man.
obviously it'd be hard to make the mechanics of the Batmobile like move out and the thing eject from it. Like that'd be
Or the shot
way
where
too
he
much
like
money.
the wheels roll when he
Yeah.
comes out of the
Yeah.
alleyway. Just the wheels are CG there, and just that asset
They
right
look
at
so
the
good.
end.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And he's just like
Wow.
pulling like I think on a wire, like it just
Yeah.
slides it out, and yeah, it's like that's the best part. It's like half practicals are the best, where it's
Yeah.
like keep everything you can and then just like placing these things. I mean, there's like some digi doubles of Batman,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
he's like super
Yeah.
easy. He's black. He's like
Yeah.
supposed to be midnight black across stuff. So him flying through the air, so easy. For
And
the
all of his,
CGI
yeah,
moves,
his
yeah.
cuts like hiding everything in the darkness. It's like,
Right.
I mean, there's that scene where Rachel is sliding down after they saw the Joker drops Rachel, she's sliding down, Batman comes through, and it's just a lot of like black dark cuts, which is super fucking easy to just kind of piece together.
That's a really smart way of doing it. Justin, did you have a favorite scene in the movie?
I like any scene that has a bit of trivia. So I think, I mean, like the hospital exploding one, because of that little blip about it not going off and his reaction. I think my other one is when the Joker has Rachel's face and is telling the story about like how I got the scars, because it's all improv. So she didn't like, she's like
What?
kind of looking over. Yeah. So she's like looking past and just
didn't
and
know
trying to
that.
like get the attention of Christopher Nolan, but he's just like, no, you keep on rolling this. Like he's psychotic. This is insane. And even in interviews, she like was talking about how he kind of went on another level of just insanity. But that entire scene was improv. She's like, her reaction is a little genuine and how she's trying to like escape and get away from this.
Specifically that one when they're in the penthouse, right? He's hosting the fun
Yeah.
dinner and everything like that.
And he's just
There's
like
this
hand around her throat and just
There's this moment where she's sort of, or he is sneaking behind her, and you can feel, that's the one good thing I think Maggie Gyllenhaal did in this movie, is you can feel her shudder when he's behind her.
Yeah.
And you would just like, I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I would do that too. It's a chilling ass scene. I didn't know that was all improv. I thought that was sort of written out by Nolan and the writers to be like, cool, he's gonna change up his origin story every single time.
Well, it's a little bit of a hybrid. So like, yeah, it's scripts, so like it's supposed to flow, but like the way that he did it, like she wasn't expecting him to do anything really physical, but he just goes for it. And she's like, oh fuck, this isn't in the script. And then they're just like, keep rolling, keep rolling, keep rolling. Because it's one of those that like they probably knew that they had something cool going.
I wanted to ask, is the point of Joker telling the different stories to different people of how he got the scars, meaning like he's just insane? Or were those stories kind of like lining up into a cohesive narrative where they all like played together? Like what the first one was, my dad was drunk and like he did it to his mom or something.
Yeah,
like
that makes me angry. I was gonna say that. I hate not knowing how he actually got the scars. I want to know.
I think The comic book reveals one of them to be a real one, which is his wife. He lost his job and was depressed, and it's the one that he tells Rachel where he carved a smile into his own face. Was in one comic book. There's a different one in a different comic book. So it might have been a nod to that, of that there's been so many different origins.
Okay.
But I also think it nods to him just being insane.
Yeah.
And another thing of no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, I don't think there is
Yes.
actually an answer. Yeah. That's what makes me angry about it. Is that
It makes it angry,
I don't think
but
there
it
is
works.
actually a canonical
Yeah.
version of that. There isn't. Not a sturdy one, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, growing up, I never really put that together, because he always, I mean, the line is, you know, I got these scars, and it's, but I never really like thought about the stories being different. I just was kind of just like, I mean, something happened with a knife. Cool, we get it. He's psychotic. But then, yeah, like to your point, they are different, and you never really pick that up. And they're like, oh,
the only
so
one who
he's
knows is the audience.
Yeah,
which is the weirdest part.
exactly.
Oh, that's right. Isaac, did you have a favorite scene in the movie?
Mine
when you were watching?
has always been the magic trick with the mobsters and the Joker.
So good.
Because it's so quick, and it sums up the Joker's relationship with them so quickly. Like it shows that he is like not this, like, I mean, he's like kind of like hunched and like doesn't look strong, but like in any real physical altercation, he holds his own, which is weird. Like you don't expect that from him. Like he is actually a pretty good villain in like fighting senses, but he's also like a cheat, which is why like when it ever gets overwhelmed, he has like an explosion, or he pulls out a gun, or like he doesn't, it kind of goes back to the rule, if he doesn't play by the rules of anything, he's like, oh, I'm outnumbered, cool, I have a million grenades in like my coat ready to go. Like it just is like the perfect summation, really quick into the movie too. And I also like that scene because it's so funny. Again, what you were saying, Matt, we're in this really real world. They pull out a tube television that apparently has a webcam in it, that apparently also connects to this guy's private plane. None of it makes sense.
None
and
of
it's
it
just
does.
like, for like aesthetic visuals, it's just the funniest thing, where it's like they don't try to explain anything at all. It's just like, okay, that guy's there.
Isaac, that's a really good point, with that just being a summation of his character.
Social engineering and human nature, which is his whole thing of like pushing its boundaries, seeing where it will go, assuming what people will do. Like how he's so upset that neither one of the boats go off, but he's like, oh well, I'm gonna blow them both up. Like there's always the extra thing if like his idea of what's gonna happen doesn't happen.
And then you cut to the shot like right after he gets out, where he's hanging out the back window of a cop car, and it's just that gorgeous front-on shot with the cops trailing behind him, and it's sort of like a
where he
view
like
from the hood, and just his hair is and like it's like, I'm out, bitches. Like, yeah, what are you gonna do now? Yeah,
that's gotta be one of the most iconic scenes in Hollywood, right? That I think one of the more, I would think, known shots in this movie for sure, where he's just pouring out the side too. That's a great one,
so
Matt.
much. It's such a gorgeous angle. Yeah.
I have two favorite scenes in this one, and they're both, I think they're both the heists. It's the intro bank heist scene.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was good.
What a fucking kickstart to the movie that is. And Isaac, just as you were saying, it really personifies everything about the Joker. I was taking so many notes on this one as I was watching it, because it slowly actually layers on in very subtle ways what you can expect from this villain, which is nothing. You can expect nothing on any scripted moment-to-moment piece. Just the first shot, you're thinking it's panning on the building, and you see the reflection, and then just the window like blows out. It's like, whoa, was not expecting that. How he gets his own clown accomplices to kill each other. How when he is like at gunpoint, oh, I called in a bus. What bus? And the grenade that he puts into the dude's mouth, and you think it's going to explode, and it's just gas. Like he seamlessly runs into all of these different moment-to-moment pieces that he's like, this is not how you think this is going to go. And I think it's just such a brilliant scene where you get this mindless, like chaotic villain, paired him with intelligence, and that's what makes him unpredictable. But if you think about it, it's the next scene is where I'm thinking about this, where you get Batman like reintroduced.
In the parking garage. Yeah.
And it's funny because it's kind of mirror images they both work in this very like mysterious way. Nolan brilliantly sets up these two scenes of introducing these characters as both unpredictable, but one will just murder everyone in his path just to keep going, and the other one
I can't legally kill anybody.
I can't legally kill anyone, right?
I'm gonna just like tie them up and leave them for the cops.
And Nolan just goes, cool, here are the two chess players that you're going to deal with.
Mhm.
Let's see who wins this one, right?
Yeah.
But it's not boring exposition. It's while something's happening, you find out who the Joker is, what people think of the Joker, the banks, where the money is, the mob, where they're hiding money. And that's like 10 minutes. And then you
Yeah.
immediately jump to like this thing, and you're like, okay, the guy from Batman Begins, obviously he's not going to be in this anymore. The mob are infighting with each other. They are scared of Batman still. And then like that's like 20 minutes maybe, and you have like all of your exposition out of the way, and you're right immediately jumping into what will be the rest of the movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pretty
It
succinct.
also cues that it's going to be a heist movie. Like this
Yeah.
is the tone. You're going to see several different heists like strung together as you go throughout this. That's actually my second favorite scene is when they go to was it Hong Kong?
Mhm.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
movie. I love how they leave Gotham. It opens the world up so much, and I don't know about you. Did you all feel like that was like an unnecessary tangent?
No,
in the
I kind of
film?
like it. I mean,
I did
the
too.
thing I think is funny about it is always the security guards. Just that guy, the way he's such a little robot boy. I don't know how
Oh,
else
yeah.
to describe it, but like his face when Morgan Freeman hands him like the phone and everything, it's just so robot-ish. It's very
Yeah.
odd. And that is, he leans into the joke because, of course, the joke is Morgan Freeman comes back down and he's like, "Oh, I've already got my device." And he's like, "Oh, sorry, sir. This
I
clearly
definitely
isn't
received
yours."
this from you 1
Yes.
hour ago.
Yeah,
Why would
1 hour.
I
I
not
know who
insist
you-
that you take it back?
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
When did a Batman movie ever leave Gotham in the past before? Like any of the
Batman
Tim Burton
Begins.
movies?
They
Oh
leave
yeah,
for a lot.
actually,
Yeah.
that's
To
a
bed,
Yeah,
To a lot
Begins
of
is
wherever,
that's
yeah.
what
Yeah.
Oh, and then the third one does. The third one does as well too. So Nolan just goes, yeah, Gotham is a part of this world. Gotham is not the world. Whereas Tim Burton was like, no, we don't need to hear him. We don't need
Yeah.
to see anything else outside these walls.
Yeah, because it grounds you in where Gotham kind of stands in, because it's not like they're going to like a fictional Hong Kong. I think they even mentioned that they are going to
Mhm.
Hong Kong.
won't extradite one of its own. It's like his old
Yeah, yeah.
China one, yeah.
That-
Well,
that's
no, that
okay,
is
that's
an
okay.
interesting. No, that's an interesting point, right? Where the hell is Gotham? If Hong Kong's there, where the hell is Gotham? That's what you're asking,
Right.
Justin.
Exactly.
And I'm with
Where the
you.
hell is
That's
Gotham?
a good question.
I wanted to ask you all, do you all think to me Gotham is like a mashup of Chicago, where I believe it was shot.
Mhm.
It's a mix of Chicago and New York, like
Yeah,
put
that's what it
together.
New
is.
Jersey.
Yeah.
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 At first, I thought it was a mix
Metropolis is New
between-
York. Gotham's New Jersey.
Oh, that's a good
I think
call.
in a,
I
like
never-
a real map.
In the
of-
real
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Mhm.
canon.
Because yeah, noticing that there's a little there are more bays in like some of the helicopter shots,
Mhm.
and which is why I thought it was San Francisco. But yeah, I looked it up as I was watching it, and they said it was a mix between Chicago and New York with like hints of DC. But,
Yeah, like the hospital explosion, that's Chicago. Most
Yeah.
of those bigger ones, especially too when you
Anything
get
with
into
the
the
rails.
third Batman,
Mhm.
like the
above.
court
Mm.
steps and that stuff, that was Chicago as well.
All right, from a sound design perspective, where do you even start on this movie? It is a fucking tour de force. Matt, did anything jump out at you?
For me, it's the consistent bass thumps, and then just the build up, and then strings come in with the bass. And...
so that's for the score perspective, but anything from like a sound,
as far
like
as sound,
SFX, like
sound
as we
effect,
go.
it would just be the. I love the sound when, sort of off of what Isaac was saying earlier, the magic trick. Just the sound when that guy's face hits the table. The other one would be when Batman is interviewing the Joker, and that interaction, that first head hit there. Yeah, that one's just great
It's
because the
sold
Joker's
so
like,
well.
I
Yeah.
can't feel the next one, obviously. See, or whatever. Yeah, that's yeah. But that sound on that second hit is.
On top
Yeah.
of that,
Yeah.
I would say just any of Batman's like combo hits, like it's not heavy, it's almost sharper. It's like they took out low end of it. Like a lot of it is like really high pitched, and it feels like a lot more like you're hitting something hard. It feels really powerful and sharp versus like I feel like a lot of people go heavier with like there's not a lot of grunting. I feel like when he hits people, it's like you mostly just hear the impacts of all of his punches, which is like just really cool. And then the whole thing of his cape, which obviously you don't hear probably when they film it, but like someone had to go through and like add all of these like cloth effects, so you really feel like he's like moving all over the place, really using a lot of like force when he fights people, which he does most of the time.
There's also very little muzzle flash, and you only can tell when a gun is firing really from the sound. I noticed on this watch. There's like very little muzzle flash.
And a lot of the times when the guns are firing off, there's especially like I think of the first like bank heist scene. It just pierces through with not a lot of score in the background. So you're like, whoa, okay, a gun is that is major right now. You feel it.
And there are a lot of moments where the score lets the sound effects breathe. Because I'm always a big sucker for either juxtaposition or just the lack of score. When you're in a fight scene and you're just hearing the punches, there's nothing going on. Kind of like with the first shot of Watchmen. When they're fighting to Unforgettable, Nat King Cole. It's just like it's an intense fight scene, but you have such a beautiful kind of melancholy thing going on.
That's why, darling, it's incredible.
But it's just that juxtaposition of that scene. You take it in a little bit more. And I think
that's so important, the sound hierarchy, right? Like as you have here. And in the case of like Watchmen, Nat King Cole's track is definitely second fiddle. Like it's there, but each time the glass shatters. It's the same thing. I think what's brilliant about Hans Zimmer in this is he knows like I can be a compliment to these awesome SFX, like these sound effects as we have going in here, where a gun will be shot off. Batman lands on a car and you hear it.
That's one of my
plays
notes.
Beautifully
Nolan
together.
knows when to have no score. Like that's like also one of his talents is like not a constant droning like violin or some like other movies like kind of fill the gap. Like there's confidence in like the monologues specifically. Like there's a lot of drops where it's like if people are talking, nothing, which makes it feel more real. Like you can like there's no reason for it. And then surprisingly, once Two-Face is Two-Face, he has sound under all of his monologues for some reason. Like it's not in most of the film, but he has like scores that like swell while he's talking.
Isaac, did you have a favorite like sound effect?
One of my favorites is Sonar, the Sonar sound effect, which is like I would assume really hard to come up with because it's not a real other than like the beep and it like goes out kind of thing is what we think of.
We got POV on Alpha. Omni on Beta. It's like clowns and hostages on 2 floors. A SWAT team on the stairwell.
I love how they modulate Freeman's voice when he's guiding him through to also just remind the audience a little bit that like they're working through Sonar in this very unethical way. It's a nice little audio like tag moment like to add.
It's also one of my favorite quotes where they're in Hong Kong and it's just like a funny throwaway line where he goes like, "Oh, sonar, and he goes, "Yeah, like and then you're supposed to say bat," and he goes, "Submarine," and they're like, "Uh-huh," and then they just like leave, and it's like, why throw that joke in? But it's just such a funny like Morgan Freeman thing where he just like denies him the like very pun of like a bat sonar, and he's like a submarine. He's like, "Oh yeah," and he just like walks away.
I agree with Isaac. I think mine are just the vehicles, the gadgets, and just the tech involved in it. The roar of the car just adds a little bit more too.
Look out!
Because I think the new Batman, the Batmobile was visually beautiful, so that kind of added to that. This is a kick-ass vehicle, but like the Dark Knight, it's a military grade. I just think that the sounds really give you that impact
It's a
more
Humvee
so.
tank, you know,
Yeah.
like as you're going through, and you feel it throughout.
Like when it blasts through the wall, like, or any of the cement walls.
When that
you
like
just-
back thruster goes. You're like,
Mhm.
oh
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like when he
Yeah, man.
jumps and hits the like rocket-propelled grenade midair, it's just like, yeah, that's what this vehicle is built for. Just like taking on hits all the time and just like brushing it off.
Speaking of gadgets, one of my favorite scenes, actually, Isaac, it goes to your point of like Hans Zimmer knowing when to drop the score and Nolan when to drop the score. I forget which heist it was. I'll have to go back and look for the link, but it's everything has cut out in sound, and all you can hear is the flap of Batman's cape just gliding in the wind. Like you hear how hard he's falling and gliding with all that wind. That's it. And then it braces for impact, and then he like lands through the glass and everything like that. There's no like dramatic like, oh cool, let's play the Batman theme over this because he's, you know, he's doing the thing right now.
Yeah.
It just adds like a nice little bit of, okay, it cues the audience to breathe for a moment before he goes in there and just ass kicks, you know.
Because in a way, I mean, the Batman theme is the cape sounds.
Yeah.
It's like you can kind of hear he's coming based on that. And I think that like that just kind of gives so much to his character and the impact of, you know, how hard he's taken these hits, how intense these flying moments are. Because even like when he catches Rachel falling out, he has to like, I mean, that thing is a parachute and needs to be deployed before impact so that he doesn't fucking crush that cab driver that he's landing on the car of.
Which we don't see if that guy survived or not. We
Yeah,
see
it's
it
almost just
before
like a
and we see he's
light.
crushed.
Yeah, like, oh, what's that on my hood? I don't know, just like a 250-pound man in a suit that probably weighs at least 75 pounds carrying a woman. He should be dead, but Batman doesn't kill.
Wait, does he kill Harvey though at the end? He had to
He
think about that
doesn't
again.
catch Harvey.
Yeah.
Not his fault.
Yeah, that's not killing
Harvey
him. There's a
falls.
difference.
Fair enough.
Another good example, yeah, sort of like you guys were just talking about when we go from him soaring through the air. As soon as we break through the glass, cello's back in there, bass is thumping. As he uses it, it's like a gas pedal. Left is safe, dead. Get ready. You're off to the races.
This is one of the best from Hans Zimmer, right?
Yeah,
Because it doesn't feel like you're watching it and there's a score playing and it's so fixed together that you don't even realize that there's something behind it until you just like, you know, separate that layer. Because watching it last night, I think I got halfway into it and I was like, oh fuck yeah, I should probably think about the score and how it works. But I was like, it just blends so well.
Like Matt was
Yeah.
saying, it is action based.
Mhm.
It follows action versus like leading intent of action. Like things happen and then the score happens. Yeah, it's not like a song that's playing over things. It's, you know, 6 to drums, cellos, deep bassed things, or high pitched things for tension. Like it's not this like beautiful like woven thing, which he's done for other stuff, which makes sense. But I feel like a lot of his films, like to Inception, to Interstellar, it's based on what's happening, and it just, yeah, it adds a layer to it where you're like, I'm pumped. Why am I pumped? Oh, because there's these massive drums like banging the whole time as he's like fighting someone. And you're like, oh, that makes sense.
it's a lot of tempo as well, like pretty much for everything. And that's where I was thinking, you know, because we were talking about John Williams before. If John Williams had done this, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as
Goofy.
good. Yeah, I think it would have been
Would've
goofy
been-
as hell. Like you kind of
Yeah.
need Hans
Too
Zimmer
whimsical.
to work with. Yeah, exactly. To work with Christopher Nolan here. Yeah, absolutely.
And he always shines with Christopher Nolan. Like
Yeah.
those two are just
Oh yeah, that's the
so-
Spielberg John Williams connection.
It is,
Exactly, yeah.
honestly.
Hans Zimmer just knows how to keep it very, very simple around like a musical idea, whether that's like giving a swell, whether that's let's pace it up in tempo. Isaac, what you were saying before about like, wait, why am I feeling this excited right now? And I think he also does that masterfully with anxiety in this movie. Like he will just have it start on one string, one violin, just like
The scars. You want to know how I got them?
and they'll add maybe, okay, now it's a second string.
Hey. One day they carve her face.
Okay, now it's a second player.
I stick a razor in my mouth, and do this.
Okay, now we're adding a quartet, and it's just gradually crescendoing.
Now I'm always smiling. A little fight in you. I like that. And you're gonna love me.
We're just gonna keep layering on to a point where you're like, oh man, what has he done here? Because he's almost like it's sneaking the little musical spinach into your scene without you even noticing, right? Like as you go. So damn good.
He has a masterclass that he went over where he goes into like his Dark Knight theme, and in that clip he kind of goes over like what he's thinking when he plays notes and like what he hears, and like for Batman's theme where it's like the two horns of like a high and a low, and he's like, that's a question, like what is it asking? And like, no, I would never think of that between like two notes I play, but he's like, this is inquisital, and then he's like, and then these two high notes for the Joker, it's menacing, and you're like, yeah, and he's like, so like I'm just gonna keep you on edge because you're on edge looking at him, and you're on edge with like what he's saying, so I want to make it really uncomfortable for you here. And then down here for Batman's, it's like it swells around this heroic figure, and like it's begging a question of like, what will he do this whole movie? And he like, that's where he starts when he's writing stuff, whereas like I feel like other people would be like, what sounds right, like what sounds like a cool musical theme for this guy, what's interesting, the Joker's so wacky, what crazy like string plucking can we do for this like weird guy, where it's like, nope, it's like this is like my foundation for this, how I'm gonna think about it for this entire theme of this thing.
We're talking about those two notes the whole time, Isaac, of what you were saying. They do so much for this movie, for the character. Literally is just a swell as you go up on one note and a decrescendo as you go down. And that is Batman. You don't know when something's coming. It's a moment, and then it just goes away as you see it right there. The other thing that I think both Nolan and Zimmer are very diligent about in this movie is not beating you to death with that theme, which I cannot say the same thing about our Marvel friends. Almost this like cue of like, yeah, now this is where the audience is supposed to clap right now. He's very protective and selective about where he wants to place that swell. Like it's very earned as you go through that movie.
And it's kind of like what he does for most, I mean, because with Interstellar, it was a lot of the organ. So it's kind of it's a theme without really punching the same notes. You kind of just have this technique. Same with Dunkirk, and that he layered the audio for that illusion of anxiety, what they call the barbershop pole, where it is just a repetition as it goes up. This next one carries underneath of it. There is no inherent theme to it in like a traditional score, like with the Marvel universe, where it's like you hear that theme, you're like, all right, I know what I'm in for.
Here we go.
It's just the technique is what creates that kind of principle for the entire, for whatever movie it's in. It doesn't really repeat. It's just, you know, how it's the feeling that he gives you.
And that's I largely don't think in this movie, I don't think of it as separate songs that go with scenes. It's one track for the whole movie. And like you're saying, Blue, it's like a roller coaster, but there's none of this repetition, and it's not one that where I think about it having like this crazy sound behind it. It's just plays and enhances the visuals that you're in for. But it's definitely not separate songs. It's one thing, in my opinion, one long thing.
But like specifically, that's why I didn't ask you all on this. What was your favorite piece?
I couldn't pick. I wouldn't know.
I couldn't tell you because Matt, you like that point is like so perfectly made. It's one composition as you go, as far as I'm concerned. Like for instance, if we were all watching Howard Shore's like Lord of the Rings. Cool. Is it the Ride of the Rohirrim? Is it the Shire theme? Is it Isengard? Like very iconic, different flavors and aesthetic sound motifs as you hear it. Star Wars, Imperial March. Is it going on Endor? Is it like Hoth? Like these are very self-contained musical pieces. This is this perfect like seamless blend where I don't know if I would ever seek out like, oh yeah, give me that one Joker. Like I need to keep hearing this again. You know what it is? It reminds me of Justin's like some of those concept albums that you would hear. Like, I'm not going to listen to like this middle part 3 of Pink Floyd's. Let's listen to the 3rd or 4th part of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. You're like, but like Lou, why wouldn't you listen to the
whole
thing?
Yeah, that's a good point about it just being one full track. Because even last night watching it again, I was just like, I know that we're supposed to bring up what tracks we like in it, and I was like, well, the whole thing is it's just there. It's part of the package. It's hard to pick up.
Is this the best Hans Zimmer score? Is this your favorite, or is there? Justin, I think yours got to be Interstellar, right?
Yeah, mine's
like,
Interstellar as well.
Yeah,
mine's
right.
Interstellar.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're all the same.
Okay,
yeah, Interstellar, like the mechanic of the ticking is kind of the way that you can kind of piece together the time back on Earth when you're on other planets, and everything in that is considered to a point where it's just like, this is a masterpiece. It's the best. Interstellar is the fucking best.
I'll have to listen to that one again. I've only seen Interstellar one time, and I think I think maybe we need to add that one onto the list as well. Justin, you might actually have to lead that podcast.
If you do that one, I would, because I think Interstellar I think it's my favorite movie of all time.
I'll reserve the right to listen to Interstellar again. I don't think this is his best. I would probably put it top 5.
I'd say top 5.
Definitely top 10 as he got. I mean,
they're all close.
Looking back here, let's see. The first Rain Man looks like was his. Oh my God! Wait, he did Driving Miss Daisy, right?
Dude, I love that movie. That's a good movie.
I had to pay the bills.
Miss Daisy is a great movie. Yeah.
Unless we forget about the Spirit movie with the horse.
That's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, what is that?
That's not only Zimmer.
It's what's his name? Brian Adams.
Yeah. Oh, that song.
Yeah.
Great song.
It's like a 90s wet dream. Although
so Hans Zimmer and Morgan Freeman have been working together since 1989 for Driving Miss Daisy. That's wild. That's wild.
He's got some good ones though, from Gladiator, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Gladiator's obviously great. That one's really good. We should do that one at some point as well. That one though is super long, so that might be a 2-episode kind of.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes was a good one. Lion King is fantastic, guys. I mean, that's Prince of Egypt.
Holmes.
Yeah, I mean, he did the Kung Fu Panda.
Actually, I'm gonna change mine to mine's the Lion King with Elton John.
With Elton John, dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the weird ones he's done. He's done the SpongeBob movie. He's done Boss Baby, and he's done Kung Fu Panda.
Earn that paper. That's all I got.
Yeah, mine would either be Lion King, or, as much as I hate watching that film again, or would hate watching that film again, the Dunkirk soundtrack. Let me ask you this. If you take away Hans Zimmer's score and put something else into The Dark Knight that's serviceable, I still think it's a great movie. It's not nearly the platinum that it is with it. Like, I don't mean to belittle Hans at all. Like, maybe not with Interstellar. I'd have to watch it again because it's so integral. But if you take away the tick 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 and the swelling and everything that Hans Zimmer had to do for Dunkirk, I think that movie falls on its absolute face and it becomes the most average movie ever.
Well, yeah, I mean, the story of Dunkirk is pretty incredibly boring, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're actually looking at an action movie, a bunch of guys got stuck on a beach. Some people who weren't in the Navy got on their sailboats and sailed there. I don't know if you've been on a sailboat, but it's not very exciting. I agree, Lou. Yeah. For me, that is what really made that film as far as the tension and everything. I think that one would fall way more flat.
Wait, let's keep going on accolades here.
Yes.
Is this the best Nolan film?
No.
Or are you still going to take Interstellar? You're like, bitch, it's Interstellar all day.
Yeah, Interstellar's close. There's some parts of Interstellar that I also have trouble with, like the bookcase thing. That's just, some of that is like kind of easy writing. For me, they're probably tied. Because I make fun of both of them. I make fun of a lot of movies, even when I love them so very much.
Yeah.
Because I watch them too many times. I think that's my problem, actually.
Wait, he has a really, like, Quentin Tarantino, he has a very tight list of films. He has not done a lot of bullshit.
I mean, you go back to like Memento as well. That would be a really good one, but to me it's a little too like tangential because he never remembers like what he's doing. So that's kind of it's hard to follow the storyline when he doesn't know. For me, it either Dark Knight or Interstellar. That's it.
I mean, The Prestige was very good.
Yeah.
That's up there for me.
I'm always a sucker for magic, practical, maybe not, maybe it is.
I forgot he did that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I agree, Justin. It's either Inception or Prestige for me. I have a feeling Oppenheimer is going to be the one, though. Everything I keep seeing about this film. Wait, is this the best Batman movie?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It's tough. I really like the Tim Burton ones too because they're
I'm
so
a
different.
bad movie person because I don't like old movies. So
yeah,
I'm not the person to ask.
I just love like Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face or Jack Nicholson as the Joker. They are like iconic in a completely different way. Where that is full on comic book Batman. Is the Tim Burton series full on comic book, the car, everything, nothing makes sense. You couldn't parallel park that car to save your life. You couldn't drive through anything. It's just an extra long, like 8-wheeled vehicle. But the nice thing about these is it makes it believable. And that's sort of like what Justin was saying, where it's like, well, they went to Hong Kong. Where is Gotham? Like, it really does make it believable. And that's why I really get into this one, because it's so tangential, like I feel it, I guess is what I mean. It's like, it's right there. It seems like I could touch it.
I thought you were gonna go for the Adam West one though.
No, that one's too much for me. But the Tim Burton ones I do really like, specifically the first two. The third one, the rails were off the rails. That one jumps the shark.
I think is that when Joel Schumacher took over?
And Tim Burton is just producing. And that one really goes crazy. Yeah,
it became like a let's make some action figure movies, like,
there was an intent with those, and it was just purely marketing.
We've been very lucky and treated to very distinct Batman periods where it's like the buzzing pow like of Adam West to like the Joel Schumacher, Tim Burton. I lump them in the two. It's the same ethos of like, let's lean into comic book world here to a very grounded Chris Nolan world that you have here, which is very plausible, very believable. To I think the latest one I even still like, where it's more detective, it's more gritty, it's more Nirvana, like all the way
skipping over the Ben Affleck.
Holy fuck, I forgot. Okay, well, actually, maybe we have not been treated to a whole distinct that one was a waste of time.
Well, that one's hard because Batman is hard to put in with superheroes.
He is very
it's just goofy. So like what they did where they're like, but what if he was armored to the gills and then he fights Batman or Superman? It's like, it's just hard to put him in there. So I feel like even if it was like Nolan in the Justice League era,
it wouldn't work.
It's just hard to do.
Once it expands out into the Justice League universe, I'm like, what aliens are we dealing with right now? Like, what is going on? Is Christian Bale the best Batman?
Definitely not Clooney.
In his movie,
not bat nipples.
In his era, I think he plays a great Batman. He's my Batman. But
exactly,
I think other Batmen play great Batman in their universes and in their stories.
That's a good.
I think it's hard to compare them because they all do different stuff for the story they're telling.
And I'm sure you'll have
Robert Pattinson did great for young Batman detective. He did good for that role, but comparing him to fully mature, knows what he's doing Batman of Christian Bale, it's like you can't compare the two. They're in different Batman universes, and B,
I think of all of the Batman actors as well, Christian is the one who will commit by the farthest to a role. Like he will go off the full on for the role and commit to it. And so I think we do get, it's just a gritty version of Batman that I think it reflects itself very nicely in the universe that Nolan set up.
Justin,
it's a bit iconic to Christian Bale as the Batman of that. It's almost like when you watch the new one, you fixate on Paul Dano more than you do Robert Pattinson. But to what Isaac's point, it's like, you have the generational, like Christian Bale was our Batman. And I'm sure Gen Z is going to be like, well, Robert Pattinson's our Batman. And I'm sure you'll see some people who are just like, fuck, Adam West is my Batman. Cool. it's just that it chapters it into that person to kind of look up to growing up. And we were what, in high school?
I do have one question though too. One quick question. Harvey Dent, all of us gentlemen, we're all Harvey Dent. We're in the middle of our press conference. We're gonna announce who we are. Do you say I am Batman or I am the Batman? Because I cannot get through this movie.
Really
I cannot get through this movie without thinking about that for like the next 15 minutes, where he's like, I am the Batman. If I was Batman, I would just say I'm Batman.
That's funny. I
Like, you wouldn't say I am.
What does he say in the
Superman.
movie? He says, "I'm the Batman."
So basically, the Joker is like, you gotta take off the mask
on your mask and everything.
And
like
then
that.
Harvey says, Batman calls for a meeting, and Harvey is all pissed because he's like, well, I'm not gonna let you unmask yourself. And so Harvey goes up and he's like, I am the Batman.
He does it
instead
even
of I am
dumber.
Batman.
He does this dumb thing where he goes, take the Batman into custody, and then walks over with his hands, and everyone's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I am Batman. And you're like, lead with that, and then do your weird thing of getting.
But you know what? You're kind of playing into the point right now that he is not the Batman. So that's a very unnatural way of saying that. Whereas
but I think it's more just like the Nolan universe, because everyone calls it the Batman in that universe, and it's just so unusual to me because I compared to any other superhero universe, I'm not sure that I know of others where it's the whatever.
Yeah, it's like saying like Tony Stark is up and he's like, I am the Iron Man. It's like, nope.
True.
I'm Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's like,
but I mean,
the shorthand.
The newest movie is even called The Batman, so it's kind of like
maybe Batman is just the emo. He needs the title, the extra title. You know?
Yeah,
the Dark Knight,
the
Dark Knight. Yeah.
Christian Bale, I don't know if he's the best Batman. I think Michael Keaton. Actually, there's a lot to love about like what he did. I really love what Robert Pattinson's doing like with his Batman. It's awesome. But I do think he is the best Bruce Wayne, Christian Bale. Like he carries himself well like a playboy, like a rich billionaire, spoiled, like
it's just American Psycho Christian Bale. It's just literally American Psycho Christian Bale, and then sometimes he's Batman. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's a good point, because I really loved Robert Pattinson as Batman, but I hated his Bruce Wayne. I thought it was just a little bit too overt, and I was just like, but yeah, I think Christian Bale is the best Bruce Wayne, billionaire playboy, suave as fuck, just super composed, charming.
Over Clooney? Clooney's suave.
Clooney was casted to be Bruce Wayne. I don't think he was. He was like, oh wait, I gotta put on what again? It's like, this movie,
you're covering up my best feature.
And he literally, after that came out from an interview, he said right after that movie came out that he thought he killed Batman, like the entire franchise. He was really worried about that.
Every interview he does, he's like,
don't worry, George.
Can we not talk about that?
We know it wasn't you.
Wait, last thing before I go over to the Joker question. It didn't bother me as much as I thought it would this time, having Christian Bale do the voice for Batman. Did it bother you all?
There's a couple of shots, like specifically when the Joker is hanging and Batman is just having this like long drawn out conversation with him, where it does get a little tedious. But overall, I take it with a grain of salt, because I'm like, okay, he's got to disguise his voice. I can deal with that.
It's made for short pieces of dialogue,
right?
Where is he? And I think when it trails on for a little bit, you're just like, okay, what? Just shut up now. Stop talking.
Can you imagine him narrating Rachel's letter, not Rachel's voice? Like, God damn it, shut up, please, shut up.
The way he holds his mouth, obviously, because he's not American and that's not his natural accent, but like the way his lips curl to do that voice freaks me out when they like zoom in on it, and he's like spitting and stuff to like get that tone. It's just like, oh, I don't like that.
Is it because the mask is so rigid?
The mask is so rigid. It looks, it makes his mouth look a little like an asshole, if I'm honest, when he's talking like that.
There's that College Humor, I think, skit where they like do it, and it's like, I think that is an accurate, take on what's happening there.
The bad hole. On that note, is Heath Ledger the best Joker?
I have to take myself out of that, because I haven't seen the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, I don't even count that as he's not the Joker in that.
I do
movie,
count
a
that.
lot of it.
It's
Oh, do you?
and I do think he's very close to Heath as far as actual like interest in the character. But Heath is still the best. There's no way. I think it would be very hard to beat. And not just the fact that he's dead, just the fact that holy shit, that's a performance.
Yeah. Well, are we ruling out the animated? Because I think Mark Hamill as
Mark
a
Hamill's
voice
the best
actor.
Joker voice. Yeah.
Right.
That's the best.
Okay,
Joker,
so those are
Joker
two pockets. Yeah.
Well,
But
yeah.
Every
if
time I
can
ask
bring-
Jacob,
yeah.
he's like, "That's my Batman, the Mark Hamill one." It was actually when you get to try out. I think Mark Hamill hung it up, Justin.
I think
Yeah,
he
it's-
transposed it into being, like we were saying a bunch of other stuff, being realistic. Like, yeah, that's obviously
wow.
a cartoony voice, but like, what would he sound like if a real person, like, you wouldn't take him seriously. He had to do like match
No.
Mark Hamill's Joker voice, but like,
Right.
this is the weird thing with the lip smacking and just the weirdness of it all is like the perfect tone for it. But I also think back to the Joaquin Phoenix thing is like, that's equivalent to Christian Bale to Robert Pattinson. Like, they are just at different points in that character's life and different stories. So like, Joaquin Phoenix was a great Joker, but it was early Joker. So it's like, this is like the most crazy form is Heath Ledger's, and like, he really knows who he is. He's really himself. He's his character. Whereas Joaquin Phoenix is like growing into that character.
And it's completely different too, where like Joaquin Phoenix, you'll see like in the bathroom, just like sitting there. You wouldn't see that Joker in like a Chris Nolan film, just like shitting or like
Just
taking
pooping.
his medication or whatever. Yeah, so it is it's extremely different portrayal. I do think the Joaquin Phoenix one though, personally, I like watching his like facial emotion more because like Isaac is saying, for a lot of it there's not that makeup on his face. He's not the full-on Joker, and so you do get a little bit more of a read into like a persona but beneath the mask.
Yeah, because I think the only time you really don't see Heath Ledger in makeup is when he's blending in.
He's a police officer
with police officers in that scene.
I think that's another great part is you do not see Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
you just
until you
Joker.
rewatch it and you like
right.
Even the
you really have
one,
to look in with all the like prosthetics, whereas like Joaquin Phoenix, you see him with makeup on, like it's still Joaquin Phoenix is there, which is like a total disconnect. They do not let you see Heath Ledger ever,
or even Jack Nicholson, the before or after, right? Like,
yeah.
And Isaac, to that point, you already kind of got the cackling Joker in Jack Nicholson, and he killed it. He did a great job. The only bad Joker I've seen is the one that who played him in like
Jared Leto.
Squad.
Yeah,
Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Just like fuck Jared Leto in general. Like
after I saw House of Gucci, I'm like, yep, and this is where I'm off on the Leto stuff.
Boof.
But I love hearing like the kind of stupid shit he tried to do on set, because like Heath Ledger was just, he got insane for this role, but then Jared Leto was trying to do the same thing where he would like send Will Smith a box of some kind of like what was it, like a dead bat or
it was like it was
something.
fucked up shit. It was not nice stuff, and
it's like he almost had to outdo the method acting
right
that Heath did, and he's like, how can I go more edgelord on this shit, right? So Isaac and I were talking. Hard to believe Iron Man and Dark Knight came out in the same year. Went very, very different routes, had very different successes. What do you think was more impactful? First Iron Man or The Dark Knight?
I don't know. I mean, Iron Man was kind of a bit of the start to what we have now with Marvel and its commercial success. I don't know. I kind of think Iron Man came out at a certain time where like we were just kind of starting to get into the bi-yearly superhero releases, and I mean, it certainly established something for the Marvel universe and kind of how that was going to go. But I don't know. I think as far as like cinematic goodness and just delectability, The Dark Knight, hands down.
I think the problem is that it did it too well and too specifically. Like Iron Man set up the template to make great Marvel movies one after another, and where DC faltered was they made a great DC film for one of their characters and could not for the life of them figure out how to make it again for any
Yes.
of
For
the
that
characters.
trilogy.
Because it didn't
for-
really
yeah,
fit.
yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's, I think, back to your question of like, could it be made today even? I do not think The Dark Knight would be made today, A, because Warner Brothers are out of their minds with whatever's going on over there, and B, so terrified of making a not great movie compared to the juggernaut of Marvel. I feel like they just keep misstepping a lot of stuff, and they wouldn't have the confidence, I don't think, to make The Dark Knight today, as where Marvel could definitely make Iron Man. It would be a lot cheesier,
Yeah.
gimmicky, but
I will say though, personally though, if I were gonna binge watch a movie for 10 hours, Iron Man all day. I would pick Iron Man, no question, over The Dark
easier,
Knight.
Really?
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
way easier watch, more fun, more like to the point, shorter. It's just yeah. For me, Iron Man is my favorite superhero movie of all time. Robert Downey Jr. is the pinnacle of yeah. So for me, that one takes the cake over everything.
Yeah.
else.
And
And
you
the
had two-
underdogness of it too.
Yeah.
Not a big casting at the time of Robert Downey Jr. That was like a wild card. Jon Favreau,
Gwyneth
actor
Paltrow.
to being director.
Yeah.
All the CGI stuff. Can a comic book come to life that way? Like, they really knocked it out of the park, exceeded expectations, and then stumbled a bit with number 2. 3 was fine. Like, but they really set up like the confidence in Marvel, where when you were gonna go watch Captain America, you were like, okay, I can see how this transferred. I can see it's a totally different time period, totally different world, totally different hero, but they still set up the beats of what you're supposed to cover in an origin story to make it rewatchable a bunch.
The interesting thing that I find about the two completely different movies and styles and philosophies on how you bring a comic book character to life. But I will say, now that I think about it more and more, the common thread and denominator between the two is they had two really captivating characters that broke everyone's expectation and mold about, in one instance, this charismatic, sarcastic playboy genius in Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark subverted everything in the past of what you think like a comic book hero would be. And then you have Heath Ledger doing the Joker, and he's breaking like fourth wall. He's like doing all these things that you would not expect like a villain to do. And I think like something was unlocked in both those respects. Obviously WB couldn't like hold on to that a little bit with other franchises, but they just went, shit, if we start with the character first and make that really captivating and interesting, we could build from that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the casting MVP? Sounds like Heath Ledger on this one. We all in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
If you had to give the second, who would it be?
Gary Oldman. I think he's the perfect.
great.
He's the perfect Commissioner Gordon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I put also Kane up there just because he is the perfect Alfred.
He
across
is.
every
Oh,
section
yeah.
of the
That's
film.
my
Yeah.
vote, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's like a easy win for him, but like does it so well.
Tangerine.
The tangerine.
Tangerine.
The size of a tangerine.
Yeah, man, you did a video. in
Dude,
college.
yeah, I was obsessed with that clip. Yeah, so when Michael
What is
Caine
it?
tells his story about the tangerine,
I saw a child playing with a tangerine, the size of a tangerine.
I'll send it to you, Lucy. You can put it in.
Okay,
But yeah, there's an edit basically where they took the word tangerine and they just cut it into almost every other word that he says. And so it just winds up being Michael Caine talking about a tangerine for a long time. But just classic peak 2008 meme content. I just love the way Michael Caine talks.
Is there a worse casting call on this? I'm just gonna get right out of the way. I think Maggie Gyllenhaal was a complete miscast on this, replacing Katie Holmes. She does nothing for me in this movie, with all due
Yeah,
respect.
I think she's able to portray the frailness, but I don't
Yes.
think that
That's the one
she's
note.
a suited character for these two leads. No, it doesn't.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem to be the same. Like, yeah, I don't see the interest. I guess. Yeah. Like she doesn't seem like powerful enough and stuff. But maybe that's the idea too, because she's the one who dies, so you need someone who's frail. But I agree, Katie Holmes was better in my opinion.
And I had to look this up. Do you know what happened to Katie Holmes? I thought it was the
No,
whole
I
Tom
don't,
Cruise Scientology thing.
Because she was just busy, wasn't she? On like,
She decided to do the Queen Latifah, Diane Keaton film Mad Money.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I had to look it up, and I watched the trailer last night. I'm like,
Mistakes were
bitch,
made.
you
Oh my
skipped out on,
God.
well, arguably one of the most iconic movies, not only of the 2000s, but like of all time, to do this romp with Queen Latifah. And I'm assuming for you too, Aaron Eckhart just really didn't bring it home for you both, Justin, Isaac.
Yeah, he was just kind of a bit
I don't mind him.
over.
I don't mind him either.
I don't mind.
I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know
Aaron
what
Eckhart-
bugged me. I think it was because Allison brought up a good point when she was watching. She watched it for the first time last night, and she was like, "Should we hate this guy? Is he a villain? He seems kind of like a douche." And I was like, well,
Kind of.
yeah." So I don't know. It kind of he played into it a bit. Like I can see her perspective of just being like, I don't like him just because he's kind of written as someone you're on the
Two-Face, maybe.
fence. Yeah, exactly.
Can we finish it off with what's our favorite lines in this movie?
One of my favorite ones, which is just so funny to show the goofiness and seriousness of Batman, is when he's holding Rachel out the window and Batman's just like, let her go, and he's like, very poor choice of words.
Yeah,
just like
really
lets
good.
her fall, and like it's just so different between them. Of like one is very in the moment and one is just like, I am serious, and it's just like it completely breaks down Batman's
It's a great one.
tough guy-ness of it.
I think mine is when they're in the car chase scene, and this is like right when the Joker opens the side panel door and then pulls out an RPG, and one of the cops looks over and he's like, "What the hell is that? Is that a bazooka?
What is that, a bazooka?
Yeah, it's like that kind of, yeah, just that it just really like adds the, oh shit, the Joker's here now. Oh man, things are gonna go off the rails.
Where there's that like mob guy who's like, you think you can steal from us and walk away? And he goes, yeah.
You think you could steal from us and just walk away?
Yeah.
Yep.
Back door.
Yep.
That's my number one, Isaac. The delivery of that is just
Yeah.
the timing has to be so fucking perfect, and he gives it so
Right.
straight.
Another good one is Gary Oldman when Aaron Eckhart he summons Batman to the roof, and then Batman vanishes when he like turns around, and Gary Oldman's like, yeah, he does that, and then he just walks off. Yeah,
Which,
I
to
love
your
that.
point again, Matt, he would have been looking at Batman.
Yeah,
Gordon
Gary
is
Oldman was
looking
standing there.
past him
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
would have saw like a Batman like run away, jump off the roof, and then just plays along with like he just disappears. Like no, it's
Yeah.
you
This
would
is
have
idea of Batman scurrying.
I think my favorite piece of dialogue is more of like because it is a character moment with the Joker where he's crazy. He's like,
You're crazy.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
I'm not. It's like
Yeah.
he doesn't think he's fucking crazy. He thinks like he's the
And it
one
almost
of
hits
everybody.
a nerve for him a little
Yeah,
bit,
'cause
doesn't
he's
it,
like, I'm not
Justin?
fucking
He's
crazy. Like,
stop!
I'm-
I keep hearing that. You know,
Like I'm more emotionally intelligent than all of you. I can read the room better than all of you. I am one step ahead of you at all times. I'm not crazy. I'm the smartest guy here. Like, you're all afraid of me.
Yeah.
You're like the gangsters are more afraid of him than they are the Batman.
I also like
There's-
the hospital part, which
Mhm.
sums up a lot of his like ethos, where he's like, I'm like a dog chasing cars. I don't know what I'd do if I caught one. Where it's like that really is what's happening. It's like, especially when you go down to like he doesn't want to kill Batman. He doesn't know what he'd do without him. Like he's like, you are my reason for being crazy. Like
Yeah.
you're the one
Yeah.
person I can like bring into this. We're crazy together, which is like in the comics a way better thing where he's like, you dress up as a bat, you're insane too. Like you go around punching
Yeah.
people in a bat costume. How is that any weirder than me? Kind of thing.
I
Yeah.
think that's probably why the Batman universe resonates. It's kind of a psychotic hero against psychotic villains, isn't it? And they're all sorts of fucked up. Isaac, you referenced it in the beginning how they try to fix the suit right away to give him more neck flexibility. And when he's talking to Morgan Freeman, he's like, man, so I can move around in this? Like, yeah, would that help? He's like, yeah, it'd make driving out of the driveway a little easier. Oh, I don't know if this is the type of place we can bring two tables together. Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. I own the place. It's just peak Bruce Wayne.
I'd
the
be so
classic-
pissed if I went out to dinner and I was
Yeah.
like some guy just came over and was like, combine these tables. I was like, no.
Oh no, it's
Like,
very
why
White
not?
Lotus.
Yeah. It really is.
Is
Mhm.
the I own the place a throwback to Batman Begins? Because doesn't he immediately buy that restaurant, like
Yes.
on the spot for him and
Oh,
like all
yeah,
those
yeah.
girls to swim in the pool.
Oh,
That's the
shit,
I just
wow.
realized that's the same
Okay,
one. And
there's a
that's why he says
callback.
that. Huh.
There's your
Interesting.
throwback, your connective tissue, Matt.
Even though there's a different Rachel.
Even though there's a different Rachel.
God damn it.
The hockey pads one. That's a great one.
What's the hockey pads?
Where the guy's like, "What's so different?" Like the guy that's tied up. Where
Oh
he's, like,
yeah,
in
what's the difference
what's-
between you and
and
me?
he's like,
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
pads. And just like jumps in his Batmobile.
Whew.
Oh,
Batman.
Best